I gripped it firmly in my hand. I was torn whether I should really go ahead with it. My eyes turned to the woman in front of me. Her cheeks were blushing, and her eyes glistened as she looked at me. Seeing her up close was breathtaking. She was so beautiful. I'm sure she must have steeled herself to be here. If that's the case, I'd like to respond to her wishes, too. Because I felt the same way as she did. So, I pushed it in, all the way. I'll never forget her joy in that moment, for as long as I live. What I'm about to tell you is about a fateful reunion with a woman who used to hate me. I'm James Peterson, a 32-year-old gynecologist working at a hospital. Although I am now steadily gaining experience as a doctor and working well, I actually went a long way to become a doctor. I had 2 failed attempts before I got into med school. Or rather, I didn't take the exam for 2 years. I was in a top-performing class in high school and within the range of getting into a medical school. But on the day of the preliminary exam, my chronically ill mother collapsed. The exam became the least of my concerns, and I didn't go to the exam center. I spent 2 years supporting my mother, who was on the brink of life and death. It might have been a detour, but there's nothing more important than life, so I have no regrets. Sadly, my mother passed away, but I am glad that I could be there for her. I always dreamt of becoming a doctor, and through my mother's battle with illness, my desire became even stronger. So, 2 years later than my peers, I entered medical school. Now, working as a doctor, a woman transferred to my hospital. The beautiful classmate from high school who used to hate me, Amanda, became my patient. Well, it would be more accurate to say that she was always competing with me, rather than hating me. Amanda and I went to the same preparatory school. We were always competing for top grades, and she treated me as a rival on her own accord. I didn't particularly feel that she was a rival, but it is true that competing with her motivated me to study harder. Maybe because she saw me as a rival, she was always tough on me. She often told me, "I will not lose to you," but I admired her competitiveness, which was a stark contrast to my laid-back personality, and I thought it was cool. In high school, I hadn't told anyone except my homeroom teacher why I gave up on the exam. Of course, I didn't tell Amanda either. I couldn't take the exam because my mother was critically ill. It was serious, and I was scared. I was afraid to say it out loud. I didn't want to say my mother was in critical condition. If I said it, the scene of my mother collapsing in front of me would come to my mind. I couldn't bear the sympathetic looks from everyone. But Amanda, not knowing the reason, seemed to think that I had run away before the exam. "You didn't have the confidence, and you ran away. Not even going to the exam site, you're such a coward." She insulted me like that and wouldn't talk to me from then on. She got accepted into a prestigious university. It was the university she had always claimed she would get into, since our freshman year of high school. She was honest with her feelings and straightforward. She was hard on herself and others, but she never shied away from making the effort that matched. To me, she seemed dazzling. Who would have thought that Amanda would become my patient? I wonder how she will react. The reunion was a mix of happiness and a bit of fear. I met Amanda when I was shopping at a convenience store before work. She didn't know I was her attending doctor yet, because I hadn't greeted her as such. Also, maybe because I was in my casual clothes, she glared at me the moment she saw me and slightly laughed. "You're a high school grad and sick. Such a loser in life, huh?" It seems that because of my cancellation of the high school exam, I was a loser in her eyes. I'm your doctor." What are you talking about?" I showed her my name tag, which stated my title as a doctor, to the bewildered her. She was staring at it in a daze. After revealing at the store that I was her doctor, Amanda left the place without saying a word. I went to her room to greet her later, but she didn't say anything. Perhaps she was still angry. She had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer at another hospital and was transferred to my hospital for surgery. The hospital where I work has a good reputation for gynecology and attracts patients from other hospitals for surgery. After examining her condition at this hospital, it seems likely that one of her ovaries will need to be removed. The extent of the progression and the treatment plan after the surgery would be determined. But then, Amanda started saying something completely unexpected. "I'm not going to have surgery." "Excuse me, what did you say?" "Listen carefully, you dummy. I said I'm not having surgery. If you got it, just leave me alone." I explained the importance of the surgery, but she wouldn't listen. I wondered if she didn't like me, so I had other doctors and nurses talk to her about the surgery. But no matter who talked to her, Amanda refused the surgery. And she wouldn't give any reasons. I wanted to respect the patient's wishes, but I wanted her to make a choice that values her life. More than anything, I was concerned that she won't give me a reason. One day, as I was troubled with how to deal with Amanda, I passed by her room and heard arguing voices from inside. "So it's going to be an ovarian removal, huh? We have to call off the engagement." I saw for the first time someone who had come to visit Amanda. He was raising his voice, sounding irritated at the patient. "One of my ovaries will still be left. There won't be any problem. You don't know that for sure. What about the chance of getting pregnant? It's going to be lower than normal, right? Can you even have children? If you can't, there's no point in us getting married. Please, don't say things like that. I'm not going to have the surgery. If I don't, both of my ovaries will remain." "Ha!" A derisive laugh from the man echoed through the hospital room. "So, there won't be a complete cure for the cancer, right? And my wife will be a cancer patient in the first place. That's out of the question. There's only one thing I want from my wife: to bear children that will carry on my superior genes. I heard ovarian cancer can be hereditary. It would be a disaster if our child inherits it." The sound of Amanda's sobbing could be heard. "If you're worried, let's get tested to see if it could be passed on. Just the fact that you have cancer is a huge turnoff. Don't drag me into your illness. You can handle it alone." "Damn, I thought I had found a woman with both brains and beauty. You're just defective." I couldn't tolerate a man who didn't even know what the disease was and assumed it was inherited on his own. And the part where he scorned her as defective. What matters now shouldn't be whether his genes survive to the next generation. Isn't her life the most important thing? Even if she wanted children. It is women who bear children. Women risk their lives to give birth. I just couldn't accept that a man who disrespects women was ignoring her like this. "Don't you love me anymore? Please, don't abandon me." In high school, she was dazzling as she worked towards her goals. I admired her. I was angry at the fact that she was crying and hanging on to such a scumbag. Unable to stand it any longer, I entered the hospital room. "Nice to meet you, I'm Dr. Peterson, her primary physician." My sudden entrance seemed to surprise them. "I could hear you all the way from outside. You're not family, are you? If you're not, you should leave." My sharp words clearly irritated the man. "It's quite disrespectful of you. I've taken time out of my schedule for this woman." "Even more reason for you to leave. Her valuable time is being wasted talking to you. If you're not idle, you should be on your way." Tisk. The man clicked his tongue, shooting Amanda a glare. Is it okay if I leave? If I leave, it's really over between us, okay? His tone seemed to contain a mocking laugh, as if he was making a fool out of Amanda. Watching her cling and cry, he seemed to find amusement. Amanda, her eyes moist, alternated her gaze between the man and me. The usually strong-willed Amanda was nowhere to be seen. That frustrated me. Do you need to cling to this kind of man? The Amanda I know wasn't someone who compromised on herself. I heard you studied a lot and got a job at a good company. You worked just as hard in college, didn't you? You're an amazing person. Marriage is supposed to be a lifelong decision, right? You don't deserve someone who neglects your life and talks about your genes and defects. The man shouted things like you, and you're mocking me, as he listened to my words. Amanda was quietly watching me. Unsuitable, perhaps. Her words sounded younger than Amanda I knew. At this moment, Amanda seemed like a lost child. Maybe she was doubting her path due to the harsh words from the guy. Yeah, he's unsuitable. There should be someone else who will appreciate and cherish a hard worker like you, so don't lower yourself to the level of a scumbag like him. Upon hearing my words, Amanda closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, there were no signs of tears. Her eyes now regained their shine as she stared down at the man. We're done. Leave now. You sure you want to talk to me like that? I might forgive you if you apologize now. The man's earlier bravado was gone, and it was obvious that he was bluffing. He'd initiated the cruel conversation, but now he was unsettled by her desire to break up. I've had enough. We're finished. I'm glad I found out how small-minded you are before our marriage. What was I thinking? How did I not notice until now? I can't stand people who look down on the sick, or who see women as mere tools for childbirth. I'm baffled as to what I ever saw in you. Leave right now. The man was speechless, having been chastised by the woman he once looked down upon. I opened the door to the hospital room, gesturing outward with my hand. Then, with a smile, I said, "Please never come back." The man looked frustrated and fled back. With just the two of us in the hospital room, I asked for her permission and took a seat by the bed. Sorry for eavesdropping and barging in, but that guy, he's an absolute jerk. I couldn't stand it. Eavesdropping isn't a good hobby, but I'll forgive you. He used to have his gentle moments, but he showed his true colors when I fell ill. Yet, I was already in love with him, shamefully clinging to him. I wonder if my illness weakened me. Did you refuse surgery for his sake? She nodded slightly. It seemed she thought that if she didn't have her ovaries removed, he would stay by her side. But doing so wouldn't cure her illness. Maybe her mental was also weakened by the illness to the point where she didn't understand that. She laughed self-deprecatingly. Oh, you've seen an embarrassing side of me. I feel completely exposed. She seemed a bit embarrassed. But it might not be fair that she was the only one whose secret was known. I've also hidden something. Can I share it with you? I felt the need to reveal why I didn't take the college entrance exams. I told her about how my mother fell ill, how critical her condition was, and that I had to postpone my exams for 2 years to take care of her. Once I finished, she hit me gently with her pillow. Why didn't you tell me that? At such a tough time, I accused you of running away, didn't I? That's awful. I didn't want to worry you, so I couldn't say it. I thought getting pity would be painful, too. Saying this, she hit me again with her pillow. It didn't hurt at all, but each hit made a comical sound. Why should I be considerate of you, my rival? Why won't worry about you? I told you to keep up with me, didn't I? I'll go to college first and work hard so you can't catch up, but I still want you to chase me. At her typical words, I couldn't help but laugh. So, she wouldn't pity me, huh? It seems that I had misunderstood her. From there, we were engrossed in stories from our student days. She, who had been crying in front of her boyfriend until just now, was regaining her energy, occasionally showing anger or laughter. This is the way she should be. Her clinging to such a terrible guy is just not like her. So, what will you do about the surgery? She looked at me blankly before laughing defiantly. Of course, I'm going to do it. I'll get well quickly and work hard again. I worked hard to get into this company. I'm still going to rise to the top. Her competitive spirit came out in her face. Just like her dazzling student days, she's still shining now. The surgery was a success, and the pathology report indicated the cancer could be completely removed, with low malignancy and low risk of metastasis. At her request, genetic testing was done, which showed no genetic risk for cancer. Both she and I were relieved. During her hospitalization, we talked every day, and the distance between us seemed to have closed. I enjoyed the time I spent talking to her outside my working hours. Bring me a drink in the afternoon. I'd like something sweet tomorrow. She started making demands, and I found her making these small promises adorable. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who found our talks enjoyable. On the day of her discharge, I had prepared flowers for her. As we were leaving the hospital, I handed her the bouquet. Congratulations on your discharge. She looked at the bouquet, then turned her face away with a pout. Can't you see? My hands are full. I can't carry anymore. Oh, right. Interpreting her response as a refusal to accept, I felt a bit disheartened. Because I can't carry it, bring it to my house. Huh. I was still processing what Amanda had just said and stared at her blankly. What did you just say? That's what I said. Since I can't carry it, you bring the flowers to my house. Well, Amanda, I don't know where your house is. She then placed a piece of paper with something written on it in my pocket. I reached into my pocket and felt the paper. What's written here? When I asked, she replied, my contact and address. You'll need to bring flowers. Call me after work. It seems that Amanda is willing to see me outside the hospital. I clenched the piece of paper in my hand. I was hesitant about whether I could really keep this in my pocket just like this. While thinking about what to do, I looked at Amanda, who was standing in front of me. She was there, her cheeks turning red, her eyes moist as she looked at me. Surely, she had made up her mind to be here with me. If that's the case, I'd like to respond to her wishes, too. After all, I feel the same way about her. That's why I firmly pushed the paper into the depth of my pocket. Even if you ask for this back, I won't return it. Hearing my words, she seemed to relax. Perhaps she had been tense as well. I'll probably never forget the joy on her face at that moment for the rest of my life. When I returned to the office and looked at the note, it was written, "Absolutely, you contact me," along with her contact information. I smiled at her characteristic way of making a request. In the evening of that day, after finishing my work, I quickly contacted her and rushed to her house to deliver the bouquet. I hadn't run like that in years. Now, 2 years later, I live with my wife, Amanda. We do fight a lot, but my wife, who still looks pretty and cute when she's mad, makes me happy. All in all, I want to continue cherishing my wife, with both sweet and cool faces, who never fails to pack me a lunch filled with love.